Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janava Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnupat Param Parijikacharya Statra Sasima Sivangis ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की नामचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की प्रेम से बोलो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री सरि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री ललिता विशाखा राधा श्याम सुंदर कृष्ण बलराम श्री श्री गौरिता भगवान की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की वृंदावन धाम की बरसाना धाम की पिताय गौर प्रेमानंद. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shishi Guru and Sri Gaura. Thank you. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 19. Yo mam evam asammūḍho jānāti puruṣottamam sa sarva-vid bhajati mam sarva-bhāvena bhārata. Yo mam eva asammūḍho jānāti puruṣottamam sa sarva-vid bhajati mam sarva-bhāvena bhārata. Yo mam eva asammūḍho jānāti puruṣottamam sa sarva-vid bhajati mam sarva-bhāvena bhārata. So synonyms. Yaha, anyone who, mam, me, evam, thus, asammūḍha, without a doubt, jānāti, knows, puruṣottamam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saha, he, sarva-vid, the knower of everything, bhajati, renders devotional service, mam, unto me, sarva-bhāvena, in all respects, bhārata, or son of Bharata. Okay, I'm just going to move this. Translation. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, or son of Bharata. Purport. There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Throughout the whole of Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step, and still there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the Supreme Absolute Truth and the living entities to be one and the same. Yeah, raise it up. Okay. Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, learning by oral reception. One should actually receive the Vedic message from authorities like Krishna and his representatives. Here, Krishna distinguishes everything very nicely, and one should hear from this source. Simply to hear like loaves by hogs is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You need to go a little higher up because my computer, I'm not seeing the other lines. Anyone who is able to understand this according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of Vedas. No one else knows the purpose of Vedas. The word bhajati is very significant. In many places, the word bhajati is expressed in relationship to the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. In the Vaishnava Parampara, it is said that if one is engaged in devotional service of Krishna, then there is no need for any other spiritual process for the understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth. He has already come to the point because he is engaged in process of understanding. But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculations of so many years and lives is useless waste of time. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurmita Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Saha Guna Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Guna Lalita Sri Visakham Vitamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Praschata Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So I will read the purport. Oh Krishna. Are you able to hear me and see me? Because my electricity is gone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good. Okay, just want to make sure that you can hear me. So I just have to speak. I was going to read something, but I have no light here. So. So Srila Prabhupada, I'll start by reading a quote of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada says that this Krishna conscious movement is actually a purificatory process. Sarva-padi vinir muktam. Its purpose is to make people free from all designations. Trat puruṣottamam nirmalam. In Krishna consciousness, we become purified. And when we are purified, our activities carried out by our purified senses make us perfect. That is ideal perfection of human life. This process is also very simple. It is not necessary for one to become a great philosopher, scientist, or whatever. We need only chant the holy name of the Lord, understanding that His person, His name, His qualities are all absolute. This Krishna conscious process is a great science. Unfortunately, in the universities, there is no department for this science. Therefore, we invite all serious men who are interested in welfare of human society to understand this great movement, and if possible, take part in it and cooperate with us. The problems of the world will be solved. This is also the verdict of Bhagavad Gita, the most authoritative book of knowledge. Many of you have heard Bhagavad Gita. It is most important for our movement is based on it. It is approved by all great acharyas in India. Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Lord Chaitanya, and so many others. You're all representatives of newspapers. So now I'm asking you to try and understand this movement as far as possible for all good of all human society. So this Srila Prabhupada is speaking in London to a news conference, press conference. Prabhupada is stressing seriously how important Bhagavad Gita is for the mankind. In the month of puruṣottamam, we think it's important just to read chapter 15 and we concentrate and we do so many things. But here Prabhupada is giving such great importance to Bhagavad Gita that it is for all mankind. And he's actually, look, Srila Prabhupada is such an advanced devotee, so elevated. He's folded handedly. He's begging the newspaper reporters that you please help us so that people can understand how important Bhagavad Gita is. Because if they can understand Bhagavad Gita, then they will understand the science of self-realization, who they really are. Without Bhagavad Gita, they cannot understand that they are not this body. So Prabhupada has given this importance. There was one little girl, Saraswati, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we work hard right from the beginning when the children are born, so that before even the child is conceived, we read Bhagavatam, we chant 50 rounds, we perform austerities so that we can have a nice Krishna conscious child. And when the child comes, even the child is in the womb, we read Bhagavatam regularly. We are, attending morning programs, so the child in the womb is also getting all the benefits. And, the proof is there because Parikshit Maharaj, he heard the Bhagavatam in the womb. Prahlad Maharaj heard the Bhagavatam in the womb. So And these were not, ordinary personalities. They are extraordinary personalities. They came here especially to perform Leela so that we could understand. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, we also help children grow up right from, from birth onwards, to engage them also, we had a girl, Malati's daughter, Saraswati. She was only 5 years old, and she would go around asking people, do you know who is the personality of Godhead? Do you know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And many people, karmis, they would say, no, it's Krishna. You don't know Krishna is God. You should read Bhagavad Gita. Then you will understand why Krishna is God, who is God. So if the child is given proper nourishment, spiritual nourishment right from the beginning, then there is a good opportunity for the child to become Krishna conscious. The whole purpose of motherhood and fatherhood is to make sure that children are brought up so that such that they have spiritual science and spiritual knowledge, so they don't have to take another birth. Neither do we want to take another birth. So we have to practice and show by example. So here in this chapter, we are reading this chapter because we hear again and again that this chapter is puruṣottamam yoga, and it's important that we understand the importance of who real puruṣottam is. I'm glad I got my electricity back. So Srila Prabhupada, in the first paragraph, he's emphasizing that there may be many philosophical speculations. However, those who are intelligent and who can understand the importance of accepting Bhagavad Gita as it is, through the words of a spiritual master, through the mouth of a spiritual master, they can make advancement rapidly. Like if we don't surrender, we don't go to a spiritual master, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Kori Akya. Hara na kariyo mone asa. There is no other alternative. It's very important to understand that only through the mercy of the spiritual master we can understand Krishna and God. We can understand Krishna as he's explaining himself that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But many people will question, well, why should we just accept Krishna, what he's saying? Therefore, a spiritual master is required, somebody who understands why. That's why we understand from Bhagavad Gita also that tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darsina. That we have to approach somebody who is spiritually advanced, somebody who is spiritually realized. So, and Prabhupada is saying that otherwise you can continue speculating, you will waste your time, you'll waste your life, and you also become very demoniac. Just like Pundarik. Pundarik he was a king. He was initially a nice king, he was a pious king, but then he started becoming more powerful. And then he started controlling kingdoms around him also. He also had some science or knowledge of siddhis, so he could do some extraordinary things that generally human beings can't do. So he was becoming more and more powerful. And then the ministers around him, people around him, they were helping to boost his ego so much so. He was thinking, I'm such great personality. And then he's now being pushed to the level by he's beginning to think, I'm God. Isn't that so? Even the atheistic people, the materialistic people generally, when they start becoming more powerful, they don't want to know God. They don't want to know anything else, anyone else. They just think that they themselves are unique in every way and that they are the controller of their life, and they can do whatever they like until something attacks them. Of course, right now, the whole world is in turmoil because of COVID, but even otherwise, those people who rise up due to their false ego and get puffed up, sooner or later, they experience the kick of Maya, and then they become nothing. Pundarik was also like that. He became so powerful. And he started thinking, now I'm really God. And then, he even sent a warning to Krishna in Dwarka, that you should step down. You are not Vasudeva. You are not God. I am God. And Balaram was very upset when he heard that. But Krishna was just smiling. He was just happy. He was not disturbed or perturbed at all. He said, it's okay, we'll take care of him. And then gradually it led, to Krishna initially giving him a few chances. Krishna is very kind. It doesn't matter how advanced devotee you are or how fallen you are. Just like Jagan and Madai, they were so fallen. But Krishna was very kind. He bestowed mercy upon them. And they were fortunate, so they came up. Unfortunately, people like Shishupal, Dantavakra, Duryodhan, and in this case, Pundarik, even if they ride face to face with Krishna, they cannot understand because the level of ego has gone so high. They have become so engrossed in Maya that they cannot come out of it. So ultimately, Krishna had to fight Pundarik and then he had to kill him. But this is what happens, if we are not careful, even in general level, when the power starts coming up or even we start making a lot of advancement in spiritual life, we have to be very, very careful. And in the pastimes of Pundarik, or from the pastimes of Pundarik, we can understand that one of the biggest mistake he made was he committed a big offense against Krishna. The biggest hurdle in our life is the offenses that we commit, knowingly or unknowingly. The worst thing is we commit offenses knowingly, and we commit offenses to devotees. Sometimes we commit offenses right face to face, and other times, which is quite common amongst human beings, that they commit offenses behind people's backs. And one of the things that is said about this particular month is that you can do so much austerities, but if you commit one offense to a devotee, then all your hard work and efforts during this month is gone. It goes down the drain pipe. So, and another aspect that we can look at this month and our austerities and making advancement is we can question ourselves now. Now there's only a few days left, and where is our mental consciousness yet? We chanted more rounds. We got up early in the morning and we did so many, extra spiritual activities. And now the month is coming to the end. How do we check our barometer? Where are we at? Did we really benefit in all the practices that we additionally did this month? Or, is there a question mark? So the way to look at it is that you can ask yourselves, we can ask ourselves that now the month is coming to an end, and I've heard Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 almost every day. I've been on the Zoom and listening to different lecturers, and I must compliment that through the month, those devotees who give lectures, they give some very nice points that we can pick up on. And especially the other day, Devamitra Prabhu, who gave class and he discussed the entire chapter, the entire Bhagavad Gita. That was very, very informative and educational. So, having heard Bhagavad Gita every day, having performed austerities, now we are coming to the end of the month. Where is our mental consciousness in? Are we now thinking just 3 more days, just like we do with 16 rounds, and say now the rounds are done, and we put the bead bag away and we get on with other activities? Is that where our consciousness is that in 3 days' time I will be able to now start eating normal and I won't have to do some extra spiritual activities? Or are we in a consciousness whereby we're thinking, wow, this was so nice. It's like, I don't want to let this go. This month has given me so much spiritual strength that I will be able to perform more spiritual activities and not lesser of anything than what I did this month. This is the real way to check the barometer, that yes, now I cannot step back. I can understand Srila Prabhupada was performing so much austerities. Srila Prabhupada did so many activities, but he was never doing lesser. He was always doing more and more. That is the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness. The idea is that we become more and more so much absorbed that we start relishing these practices. I was discussing with one of my colleagues, and he was saying that it's like the joy of Krishna consciousness. There is no limitations to it. There is no end. In the material world, when somebody becomes a doctor or buys a house or buys a new car, they throw a party, and it's all temporary. And after a day, it's kind of over. Then you get back to karmic life and you engage completely. So you have joy for a few moments in material life. You enjoy the party, eat, drink, and be merry. That is their motto. For tomorrow we die. That is because they don't understand Krishna. They don't understand Krishna consciousness. But for devotees, as we practice Krishna consciousness, we experience goosebumps, romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo, that we start experiencing, Krishna consciousness. We start experiencing the joy of chanting the holy name. We start relishing the chanting of the holy name. We relish prasadam. Naturally, everyone loves to relish prasadam. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada said that, like, eat half as much as you can, or eat one chapati less. So like, we don't overdo, in our eating or activities that will slow us down in our regular progress. But the point is that when we relish Krishna consciousness, then we experience the joy of Krishna consciousness. We really want to experience the joy of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, like Prabodhananda Saraswati Maharaj, he says very nicely that samsara dukha jaladao pati tasya kama krodahid nakara makarei kavali karatasya durvasana nigaditasya nirarasyasya chaitanya chandra mama dehi pandavalambam. O Sri Chaitanya Chandra, I have fallen in the ocean of material miseries, where I am swallowed by crocodiles and sharks of lust and anger, and bound up by the chains of wicked desires. Give this helpless soul shelter at your lotus feet. So this is how Prabhupada Saraswati Maharaj is guiding us. This is how we should be praying, that we are entangled. And we are entangled so much so that we need the mercy of the Lord. Only by the mercy of the Lord we can come forward and come out. So in order to do that, what is required? What is really required? We have to have shraddha, we have to have faith. Without faith, we cannot make progress. Our heart can be strong and our heart is also weak. We are naturally attracted to so many different things in life. And if we are not careful, then like Prabhupada Saraswati Maharaj is saying here, that our heart will become attracted to so many materialistic things. And then when we become attracted to materialistic things, then we go down. Slowly we fall down. On the contrary, if we are attracted by Krishna Katha, and the best way to get attracted obviously is through association. Without association, we cannot really make progress. In association, what do? We do kathyantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. 10.9 Bhagavad Gita, that we can understand that devotees are always, discussing the pastimes of Krishna, the gopas, the coward boys, the gopis, So this way we can remember Krishna and understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually, when you hear Krishna's pastimes, especially Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan as a coward boy, it becomes very exciting. It becomes very relishing. And it's so interesting to see that Krishna is always happy. He's never really disturbed. He's always happy, and everyone around him is very happy. When he would come out in the morning to take his, herd of 9 lakh cows, that is like 900,000 cows. It's inconceivable for a general human mind that how one little kid can take out 900,000 cows every day for a walk and grazing, and come back in the evening with the same 900,000 cows and not lose a single one. It's It's amazing. It's exciting when you really think that, wow, this is what the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. And he comes as a kid and he can do this. But he does this so that we can also understand that he is not an ordinary coward boy. He gets us connected to him, as a supreme, but in a sweet way. Not like Kamsa or Pundari coming and said, I am so and so, I am the most powerful. You do what I tell you to do. On the contrary, Krishna is so kind, he's so merciful. He is coming out and the coward boys are just anxiously waiting because they are so happy to be with him all day. Even the cows are waiting. When they see Krishna coming out, they run towards Krishna. So in this way, we can understand that like spiritual life is meant to be joyful. God is so joyful all the time. He is giving us by example that like we are also meant to be joyful. We should not depend on our false ego. We should take the mercy of a spiritual master. We should take guidance from spiritual leaders. Srila Prabhupada was an ideal example. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, such a unique personality. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, amazing personality. If you look at our Guru Parampara, there are, acharyas, gurus who are all of different calibers, and they have some extraordinary, qualities and characteristics which are very attractive. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, just see Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how powerful he was, and yet, although he was in a very high position in the worldly, areas, he was very, very advanced. He wrote so many books. He was also taking care of his grihastha ashram. He was taking care of his professional ashram. And how and why was he able to do this? Because from childhood, he got the science of Krishna consciousness. Like he took interest in Krishna right from the beginning. No doubt he was a very, very special soul, but by example, this, acharyas and the history, we can see that they have taken interest in Krishna right from childhood. Srila Prabhupada was taking a Rath cart and Rath Yatra at the age of 5. So despite, we may look at other areas where they were appeared to be involved in, in worldly affairs, they were showing by example that it's okay to be in the world because you come now, there is a purpose. And the purpose is to become Krishna conscious, not to waste our life, to become Krishna conscious, make advancement, purify ourselves. By example, preach to others. We say preaching is the essence, preaching is really the essence. Srila Prabhupada showed by example. Just see when Srila Prabhupada was at Radha Damodar temple and he was practicing and performing his tapasya, hardly anyone really knew how powerful Srila Prabhupada was. Hardly anybody knew how elevated he was, except for Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. They knew right from the beginning, even when Srila Prabhupada appeared, they knew that he is the person who is going to rock the world with the Maha Mantra. So, Srila Prabhupada, he had Shraddha and faith in his spiritual master's instruction. Just like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had Shraddha and faith in his father, who was a spiritual master and a spiritual leader. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur told him, you go, take initiation from Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj. On the third time, when he approaches Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj approaches and tells his father that he is refusing, I've been there twice. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, no, you go. Either you go and, dip in the Ganges forever, or you get initiation from him. So he had faith in his father and went to go to Shodas Babaji Maharaj. And then finally got his initiation. Because he could understand that if my father is a spiritual leader and he is saying that Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is the person who should bless me, he took it very seriously. And likewise, in time to come, Srila Prabhupada was contemplating, and the time was right. He took preaching is the essence, and he put it into practice all over the world. And today we are so fortunate that because of Srila Prabhupada's, output in preaching, that we are all, chanting, and we are relishing, Krishna consciousness in so many different ways. And those of us who are in Vrindavan, we are very, very fortunate. They're in Vrindavan, and we are able to practice Krishna consciousness here like this. And at the same time, get the benefits of being in the Braj. Srila Prabhupada, after he went all over the world, he became so popular, and the leaders of the world wanted to see him, then media wanted to cover him, so many important people wanted to come and debate with him. Even the atheistic people wanted to come and debate with him. And those who were very fortunate, like George Harrison, he met Srila Prabhupada, and he took to the chanting of Krishna consciousness and the principles very seriously. So by these examples, we can understand that the highest thing, the best thing we can do is become Krishna conscious. And like Srila Prabhupada is saying here, that those who are fortunate, just by listening and hearing, they can understand this is the process, and they will not speculate anymore. We don't need to speculate. When we go to the university and we go and study, we don't speculate. When we go to school, we sit and we listen to the teacher. We don't know the teacher. We don't know the subject they're going to teach us, but we accept everything. And then later on, as curiosity arises, we ask questions. That's being intelligent. So same principle applies on a higher platform, that go to a spiritual master who's a teacher, who's realized, who knows the subject, and then listen to him submissively, not with doubts right from the beginning. You don't doubt, you listen submissively. Because if you listen submissively, then you will be able to understand things without, challenges. And then when the curiosity arises, athatu brahma jigyasa, when you get curious about certain aspects of spiritual life, then you question the spiritual master, and then the spiritual master will bestow mercy upon you. Brahmanda brahmite kon bhagyavan ji, Guru Krishna prasade pail bhakti lata vij. So if we approach a spiritual master with proper surrender, love and devotion, then that spiritual master will bestow mercy upon us. There are many examples where simply by a glance or touch of spiritual master, that a disciple makes advancement. But the disciples who make those advancements rapidly are the ones who actually have faith that my spiritual master is saying this, and I should accept it from the core of my heart. Those are the ones who get attracted, that heart gets attracted to the spiritual aspects of life and practices, and that they are able to follow the guidelines given by the spiritual master. They're able to respect the spiritual master. They're able to respect the Vaishnavas. They will not judge other Vaishnavas on the basis of their own perception or false ego. Just like Prabhupada's example, many people didn't realize how powerful he was. But once he started preaching, he became popular. And popularity was one thing, but the fact that he was preaching and giving Krishna to everyone. Just like Saraswati at the age of 5 said, do you know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Do we really know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? One time, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada a question that, most of us just trying. We are trying to understand Krishna. And what happens when we leave our body and we are not perfect devotees? And Prabhupada says, Krishna says, Ma'ameti. All you have to do is be involved in devotional service, be engaged in devotional service, and Krishna will, take care of you. He will take you back to it. Krishna says, Ma'ameti, that you will come to me. So that is a serious, point that is given to us. And there is nothing like Krishna consciousness, because even Lord Chaitanya, he is saying something very nice. And he says, Lord Chaitanya says, Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivana dasa kori vetana mora deho prema dhana. Without the treasure of prema, my life is poverty-stricken. Please make me your servant and give me that wealth of prema as my salary. Without prema, it is not possible to perform the Nam Sankirtan with its ornaments of sattvic transformations on the body. Although he is the ocean of prema himself, the Lord still prayed to Krishna for the treasure of prema, because prema is by nature insatiable. Prema is natural wealth of the living beings, and without prema, life is useless. Therefore, every living being should endeavor to develop prema. That is the essence of the Lord's teaching here. So, prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivana. So, Lord Chaitanya himself is stressing that develop love, prem. And this prem will not just fall from the sky. Faith has to be there, Shraddha has to be there. And to develop Shraddha, we need blessings of the Guru, we need blessings of Vaishnavas, and we have to have blessings of the Supreme Lord seated within our heart by not getting attracted to or distracted by other things, but rather becoming attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His pastimes, even more important, the pastimes of the Acharyas, and even more important is to serve the Acharyas and the other devotees. It's only when we serve the devotees that Krishna becomes happy. When we serve the devotees nicely, then the Guru will become happy also. When Guru is satisfied and is happy, then Krishna will also become happy. And if they're happy, then we will experience happiness. It's just like in the 14th chapter, there's a discussion between Arjuna and Krishna. And Lord Krishna is stressing on the three modes of material nature. And Arjuna is asking, but how can you be happy eternally? These modes, they keep on putting you in circles, and sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're not happy. And then that is when Lord Krishna in the 15th chapter explains that this is puruṣottamam yoga. You understand me, you become enrolled in the devotional service to me seriously, then you have this opportunity and a chance to become eternally happy. We want to be happy all the time, not just temporarily. So in order to be happy all the time, we understand this science from the 15th chapter. And in the 16th chapter also, there is so much more explained that how this happiness is derived. So let us focus on this Bhagavad Gita in a nicer way, in a sincere way, nicer meaning sincerely, and taking the teachings given to us very sincerely also. And I also wanted to read one paragraph by Srila Prabhupada from the 16th chapter, whereby he's stressing on this. But before I do this, we have like 10 minutes, I think. So if anybody has a question, I can answer the question first. Otherwise, I will read the conclusion from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita.
You can unmute and ask the question if you have a question. Please ask.
Bharati? Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for a lovely class. Please accept Muhammad Baisis or Bad. Thank you. It's a lovely class, very enlightening. Something we forget every day, that who is Krishna and what are his qualities, and that. I just wanted to ask you something different. Since we are in this COVID situation, obviously we know that you've just recently been in a very serious situation yourself, and I was here in England. We have high-class, hospitals where people have gone in and not recovered, not come out. And I was just wondering, there you were in Vrindavan, very beautiful place, but very basic as well. And how did you manage in ICU? How
Well,
how
from
did you recover from it?
from from the spiritual practices and the science that is given to us, we are also understand that regardless of how intelligent we are, we do not know what's going to happen in the next moment. The next moment is not in our control. Our mind may have many thoughts that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But at a certain time, when Krishna wants to test you, he can engage Maya Devi to give you a certain level of austerities to perform. And the fact is that when we go through challenges like the COVID or any other challenge for that matter, our Shraddha is what comes into action. Our faith in our belief and our connectivity to the devotees and to the principles and practices is what comes into action. Like my spiritual master Mukunda Maharaj used to call us every other day, and I used to get to speak to him for like 2 minutes because we were limited. We are not allowed to use the cell phones. And because he was calling from Australia, they would let me speak to him. And one time I asked a question that why this is happening. And this is on the second day or third day. And he said words to the effect that to get a diamond into a good shape, it has to go through so many cuts. And to get the pure gold, it has to go through such high boiling points in the furnace, so it becomes pure. So for devotees, sometimes Krishna also does that. He shakes your world so much so that he helps you to throw out all your anarthas. He gives you a realization whereby you can understand that, right, this is a great opportunity for me to just focus on Krishna, because there is no other way. In daily life, we chant our rounds and do many things, and you can put your bead bag away because something else which you think is more important comes up, and you forget that there is nothing more powerful than the chanting of the holy name. We make excuses. You're chanting, the cell phone rings and you start answering the cell phone. You haven't done your 16 rounds, but we do that. So encouragement from the spiritual master. Panchagoda Prabhu, it was extremely helpful in every way, right from step one. He was sending me narrations from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I was sneaking and somehow or other getting to hear those, because I had to use my cell phone to hear. But I had to put it under the pillow or something, and I was listening very carefully. And I would listen to it like 10 times, because that would help me to stay strong spiritually. And then understanding that the chanting is the most important. What happens in ICU is the drug is so heavily that if you are not strong mentally and you don't fight for it, within a few minutes you fall asleep and then you're knocked out for several hours. So on the second day, I realized that I have to really chant and not fall prey to Maya, because if I start falling asleep, I'm going to be like everyone else in the room, completely knocked out. So I started praying to Srila Prabhupada and praying to Radha Govindji and Radha Shyamsundar. Radha Govindji are my deities are form. So I was praying to them, and I was praying to the spiritual master also that please help me. I don't want to fall asleep because of this drugging, and get me out of here quickly. And at the same time, I was just chanting the holy name. I just chanted so intensively. Because of being under the influence of the drugs, I could not chant the normal Hare Krishna, not like that. I was chanting very slowly. I was like in deep Hare Krishna, but I would not stop that. I fought and I fought. By third day, I became stronger. By fourth day, even the staff were surprised that I'm not falling asleep. And actually, Krishna was so kind, bestowed so much mercy upon me. And I have to thank all the devotees worldwide who prayed for me that I was able to do this, and then I got mercy of Krishna. So it's many things. I tried very hard mentally. I chanted the holy name. Devotees were praying, so I'm grateful that all the devotees worldwide prayed so intensively for me, and Krishna bestowed his mercy upon me. And I really feel that I'm out here today. It's like you get Brahman Diksha, you get second birth. This is my third birth. That coming out and surviving and being able to be here on the Zoom and talking and endeavoring and trying to preach. This is all the mercy of the devotees. There is no doubt in my mind that this mercy of the devotees has brought me back here. Because I saw like in 10 days that I was in ICU, I saw like 6 people dying. People who were much younger than me, in 40s and mid 50s, and I saw people who were talking on the cell phone at 6 or 7 o'clock, and they were kind of arguing with the staff. And then by midnight they were gone, So it was very, very unpredictable. It was very kind of challenging, not knowing whether you will see the morning sunlight or not. But the chanting is a very powerful weapon. I have never chanted like that in my life before. The chanting gave me so much strength. It gave me so much energy. It made me feel so much more stronger. And then nothing seemed to matter. The injections didn't bother me. Not eating, 3 times a day didn't bother me. I was hardly taking something, very little, but I was just in the mode of chanting. I was fortunate that I had Srila Prabhupada chanting. I had this little, machine which I plugged in behind on the wall. Initially there was some objection, but then I said, no, I want that. That is, that's part of my spiritual practices. Then a doctor came and explained to him what it was. And then they said, okay, you can have it on. So, Prabhupada was chanting, and I was trying to keep up with Prabhupada and chant. So, yes, devotees' mercy, Krishna's mercy, and the chanting of the holy name, which is the most powerful tool. There is nothing more powerful than chanting of the holy name. And I can conclude on that chanting, importance of the chanting of the holy name is that when Kasiraj, who was a devotee, he offended Vishwamitra, and then Vishwamitra in the Sabha of Lord Ramachandra, he asked Lord Ramachandra to punish him. And Lord Ramachandra said, so what do you want me to do? He said, kill him. So Lord Ramachandra said, okay, I will kill him by the night. So now Kasiraj was in trouble, and he ran to his Guru Maharaj and said, look, Guru Maharaj, I did what you told me to do, but now, Lord Ramachandra is personally going to kill me. So he was advised by Narad Muni that you go to Mother Anjana and get support of Mother Anjana and Hanumanji. So he went and he got support of Mother Anjana. She promised him that I will not let any harm come to you. And then when Hanuman came, Mother Anjana narrated what happened, and Hanuman said, okay, no problem. This is a difficult one because this is my Lord who's going to come and kill you, but I have to protect you. So he took him to the bank of a river, and he said, let us just sit here and chant the holy name of Lord Ram. So they were both chanting the holy name of Lord Ram. And then when Lord Ram comes and he uses an arrow, the arrow cannot harm them because of the holy name. They were chanting the holy name of Lord Ram. So that is why there is a saying that Ram Nam is more powerful than Ram Ban. Ram Ban means the arrow. Ban is arrow. So from this we can understand that even the Lord's arrow cannot harm you if you're chanting the holy name of the Lord. So my humble request is what we hear from the spiritual master, from the devotees, from the sadhu, Sastra Guru, that chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant the holy name. Kalo nasteva, nasteva gatiranya. There is no other way. There is no other way. And I personally experienced that in the ICU. It helped me so much. And I humbly request the devotees, please take to the chanting of the holy name. There is nothing more important than that. Don't put your chanting on one side because of anything else that you feel that is important. There is nothing more important than chanting of the holy name. Give priority to the chanting of the holy name. And 16 round is not bus. 16 rounds should be chanted such that you would want to chant more and more. Any spiritual practices you are performing, you should learn to relish them and enjoy them so that, you can expand in your spiritual practices. You should come to a level that you become so vibrant with just spiritual activities and chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna. I hope that answered your question. You're on mute in case you're talking.
Yeah, you can unmute and reply if you want to, Bharati.
Any other comments or questions?
right? I mean, you say, okay, chanting is best thing ever, right? How do we develop that? Because it must have been a lifetime of chanting for you. That was fruitful.
Well, Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, you're a pure devotee, and why are you chanting? You've been chanting all your life. And Prabhupada emphasized on the importance of chanting so nicely. He said, I'm still perfecting my chanting. Of course, he didn't need to perfect chanting, but his way of saying that, go on chanting, because there is no limit to perfection. The more you chant, the more you realize, the better it becomes. See, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'll put it in simple terms, that he says chanting is the highest and the topmost thing. But then he says higher than that is to chant in association of devotees. And then he says the higher and the highest than that is chanting on the streets, whereby karmis or non-devotees can hear you chanting. So that's Harinam Sankirtan. So in order to perfect our chanting, association and chanting and association is very, very important. And then to perfect it even better than that is to go out and chant on the streets, because that will develop your faith and shraddha. When you meet people on the street and they ask you, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Or simply when they see the joy on your face when you're chanting, it helps them to become Krishna conscious. So it's like proof of the pudding is the eating. When you go out and you see that chanting is actually working, you become more enthused also. Like in the London Times, there was one front page cover news in the early days. There was two elderly ladies, and then they showed this picture of devotees chanting and dancing. And the article covered, and they had interviewed these two ladies, and the two ladies say that we don't know what it is, but look at the faces. They look so happy. There is so much joy, And they were saying to the reporter that, we would do anything to get that bliss and happiness in our lives. So, that is a typical example. We may not realize what's going on through people's minds, but if we're chanting on the streets, there are many devotees out there. In fact, everyone is a devotee. It's just a matter of, that connectivity whereby the spiritual spark, clicks, and then they start, becoming devotees also. You've seen many devotees, especially in London, where I used to preach in 3 different universities. And by the end of the year, we would recruit roughly like 10 to 12 people from each university who would come and spend their summer break with us. And then some of them, at least 1/3 of them. So we recruited 30 people, 10 people would become, full-time devotees. And it's so nice to see that, because you see that when you're preaching to them, the university and their characteristics and how things, what life they're going through, miserable life they're going through, which they don't realize. And then when you preach to them and they become devotees and you see them chanting and dancing and, putting a tilak on, going out to preach, it's so nice. It's like you see the proof. And that actually encourages you to do even more preaching and to intensify your chanting. Hare Krishna. So Mataji, I think we'll stop here now, unless you have some comments. So.
No, thank you very much, Prabhu. We very much appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the class.
Hare Krishna.